Welcome to the Real Estate Asset Management Podcast, brought to you by Break of Day Capital. The show focuses on educating syndicators and apartment owners on how to build systems and manage their properties more efficiently to become a best-in-class operator. 100% straight talk. Let's jump in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Asset Management Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Lipsky. Be sure to join our Facebook group, Asset Management Mastery, where we have a great community of thousands of like-minded individuals sharing resources and best practices. Today on the podcast, I have Brian Briscoe. Brian has been a GP in over 1,000 units worth $100 million, is the founder of Streamline Capital Group. He's developed a multifamily education community called the Tribe of Titans, and is the host of the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. Really unique podcast. I was on it recently. Definitely recommend it. Additionally, Brian retired from the Marine Corps in 2021 after 20 years of service to focus on real estate full-time. So Brian, thank you for your service and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Gary. I appreciate it.
Can you start by telling the listeners a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Choosing the right insurance coverage for multifamily properties isn't that complicated, if you know who to talk to. At the Garzella Group, we're uniquely qualified to help you navigate the range of policy choices you have, and we're committed to saving you 30% in the process. We do intensive market research and have nationwide relationships, so we can find coverage other insurance brokers simply can't. We should talk. Go to quotenow.biz, and we'll start the conversation.
Yeah, so right now, full-time into real estate. I started while I was still active duty. Like a lot of people, I picked up a handful of single-family properties, and I got hooked. Essentially, is what happened. And as my military career rolled on, I got to the point to where I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. I could see I can retire soon. And what's really nice about the military retirement is it comes at a pension. Doesn't matter how old you are. But, I started seeing that light at the end of the tunnel and asked myself, what's next? And that's when I decided to do apartment investing. Like I said, I had a handful of single family properties. I wanted to figure out how to scale it and how to live off the income from the properties. And so when I had about 3 years of active duty, left under my belt, got into a coaching program, and the rest is history. Closed on 8 or 10 properties while I was still active duty. And another 4 in the last year and change that I've been out. So in a nutshell, that's where I started and where I'm at now.
Excellent. There is a huge community of former active duty members in real estate. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think it's just because, it's a little different dynamic. You move a lot. You end up getting a lot of accidental landlords, where hey, you just got told by your service that you're moving in 3 weeks, and it's like, I don't have time to sell the house, but I have to move. That's happened a lot. I think there's a lot of people that also take advantage of moving and using the VA loan to, just buy another property, rent it out, move, and get the other one. So I think that's kind of what leads to it. But yeah, it seems like it's disproportionate, the number of veterans in this group.
Yeah, well, good to have them in real estate and building wealth.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to talk about finding a good property management company. It's so hard to do that. What are the most important factors that you look for in finding actually a property manager?
Yeah. It's really difficult, and I think that's why I chose to talk about this. Is when you're talking with property managers, it seems like they all know what to say. You start talking about it, and you ask for references. Of course, they're going to give you the people that and you can go with them and tour properties, but it's a different thing when they actually start working for you. And so what I've found is when you start asking the questions, you just got to figure out what's important to you that they get done, because I might be the only person that has had this problem, but I've never had a property management company that has done everything that I've wanted them to do in a timely manner. So at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of trade-offs. We just hopped off of an asset management call on a 61 unit property, and the property management company was the focus of discussion. We were talking about the renovations, they have this one renovation that's taken them 2.5 months to get done, and it's one of those things where you've got to realize, what areas are you capable of stepping in and handling for yourselves versus what things does the property manager absolutely positively have to do. Which is something that I didn't realize on my first couple of syndications. My first couple of syndications, I thought that, we just got to keep on searching until we find that perfect property management company. And we were probably on our 6th property management company when we realized we're never going to find it, So that's really my take on it. I mean, more than anything else is, if you're going to run this like a business at some point, you're probably going to have to augment whatever the property manager is not very good at, so to speak.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. We've gone through a number of different property management companies. We really like the one that we're working with right now, but yeah, I mean, getting things done, in a timely fashion, we've got to pick and choose.
Mhm.
They're not perfect, and if we owned our own company in-house, it doesn't solve all your problems anyway.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. Yeah, and I mean, so we were kind of quick to fire early on, and recently I've been a little slower to fire the property management companies because you're never sure if that next company is going to be better or worse. They all know what to say, and you can start talking to them. They're like, yeah, we're going to get in, and we're really good at leasing, and here's our process, here's how we do things. And then, you finally get to the last straw with one property management company, and you get to the new one, and guess what? They're taking the same amount of time to do things, and so, part of that is, so like I said, I've come to be a little more slow to fire and just kind of waiting until, yeah, we absolutely positively need to move now. And what we've ended up doing is just picking up a lot of the slack, so there's some properties that we're running renovations on. There's some properties, where we're dealing directly with a general contractor, and we're scheduling, especially with the CapEx type stuff, the renovations. That's a lot easier. We don't touch the maintenance side, but if we have units coming open, and we have a property manager that we know is not going to take care of it, it's just, or is slow at that stuff, we'll just hop in and we'll do it. And it's a conversation. There has to still be a lot of coordination with that property management company just to make sure that you're not stepping on each other's toes. But in end of the day, you have to get the deal done. You have to execute the business plan, and there's not a perfect property management company out there. So every once in a while, you got to roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty.
I think a lot of people forget that they're not the owners of this property. They manage many properties, and so it's just they're punching in and punching out, and you've got to create some kind of ownership thinking within that staff to really get the best out of them. But
Yeah.
it takes time to do that.
That's a good point. Also from our asset management call, just an hour before I hopped on this call, the phrase came up, people are inherently lazy, and the property managers, when you look at it from a property management perspective, and we've seen this with a lot of managers, most indicators are going to come in and they're going to want to try to push rents up, but if you look at what the property manager has to go through to push the rents up, it's hard for them. And a lot of property management companies are going to resist, being aggressive on rents because, they're going to get fewer leads. So if you have, if the market rents 1,200, just, throwing a number out there, and you're listing your property at 1,150, you're not going to have vacancies. The property manager is going to have plenty of applications. They're going to be able to sift through the applications, find the right person, and it's easy for them. If the market rents 1,200 and you're trying to push to 1,215, 1,220, it's the opposite. And that unit's going to sit for a long time. And the property manager is going to have to do a lot more work to get a tenant for that. And so that was like one of the aha moments I had. It probably took 2 years too long, but you just realize that you have to understand the dynamics of the property management company as well, and realize that there are trade-offs. If you're going to be pushing rents, your property manager is going to be working more. And, if they start working more and not getting the results, they're going to stop working eventually.
So what are the most important criteria that you look for in a property management company?
Me personally, I want them to nail leasing, the whole leasing process, from start to finish, from marketing to lease to move in and move outs as well. So that's the most important part to me. And really that's kind of the part that I don't want to deal with ever. If I need to hop in and, on certain properties, work with general contractors to get work done, I can do that. That's not very hard to do. But for me, they've got to nail the leasing process and the churn process. I include that as well. So yeah, from lead to lease to move in to move out and rinse and repeat. I think they have to nail that process. Like I said, where I'm willing to cede a little bit is, if they're not very good at renovations, we can handle that.
Yeah, I think if you nail the leasing part, that solves most of your problems, because
It
that's,
does.
your NOI. I mean, if you have good NOI, good
Yeah.
income coming in.
And it's amazing how many property managers don't really nail that leasing thing. So yeah, so that's really it. It's how long is it taking them to lease the units, and that's one of the KPIs that we do track is when is the move out, when is the move in, how many days between move outs and move ins, and that to me is one of the most important indicators on how well the property management company is doing at the leases.
Are there any red flags that you've come across that make you want to walk away from a property management company?
Yeah, red flags. There's a lot of flags, but like I said, I'm a little slower to fire right now. But I think there's one property management company that the bookkeeping was terrible. They weren't paying utility bills, and so we would get late fees on our utility bills. We would occasionally go through the ledgers and find stuff from different apartment complexes, so somebody would do the data entry incorrectly. I think the back office needs to work as well. So that's one of the biggest red flags, because you gotta I mean, I hate to say it, you got to nail the numbers too. They really have to nail the numbers. So as long as that's a big red flag to me. Then, like I said, the time between leasing, time between move outs and move ins, if that gets to be excessive, first thing I do is I start, pulling the string and trying to figure out why. I think some property management companies, they'll talk a big talk trying to keep an owner happy. Like owner's going to come in and say, we want to push rents to $950. And I think sometimes the property managers don't push back a little bit, so sometimes, when we have that long gap between move out and move in, I like to pull the string first and see what's happening. But yeah, sorry, I kind of rambled on that answer, but there's lots of little flags that pop up all over the place.
Yeah, I think, when you talked about, property management company pushing back, that's so important. If in the courting phase of when you're talking to a property manager, if they're not willing to kind of push back on something, then that's a big red flag, because you want someone to be like, no, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't, it's like that, use that $1,200 rent example again. If market rents are $1,200 and you as the ownership group are like, I can get 13, and you're forcing the property manager to go at 13, you're going to have a vacant unit for a long time, or a lot of vacant units for a long time. And, if that property manager can't, assertively, hey, this isn't going to work, you need them to be that voice of reason. And you should be hiring them because they are, the subject matter experts on renting in that area. So yeah, I think if they're not pushing back when they should push back, that's something to me that I think they should do.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, communication is the key to any relationship. How do you create effective communication with your property management company?
We just set up for the most part, we get everything done in a single weekly meeting. And it depends on how big your asset is. If you have a lot of assets with one property management company, they're going to spend more time with you. If you got a threeplex, they're not going to spend an hour a week with you. But you just set up regular meetings, and you make sure that they understand what things you want to approve or not approve, right? So I think it's just a simple matter of, clearly defining the lanes. Hey, property manager, you have all of this. You can do whatever you want, however you see fit on these areas. Here's where I want you to call me. And oh, by the way, don't make that list excessive, because once again, the property management company, you don't want them to get annoyed with you. You got to kind of play that line between, how much they're making versus how much time they're spending on it. Which is something I also took me way too long to realize. But regular communication, whatever frequency that is, depends on you and the property management company. And then clear lines on, this is the stuff that I want to know about, when it happens, and this is the stuff you can take care of, and we can talk about on our weekly or bi-weekly meeting.
A lot of new operators ask me about accountability. How do you hold a property management company accountable? Do you have any tricks for that?
The KPIs and that weekly call. That weekly call is your tool to hold them accountable. Hey, property manager, you said you would have this done by this week. Why isn't it done? What are you doing to get it done? And I think the biggest thing on the accountability side is, you just, if it's not working, you leave and you take that revenue stream away from them. So the weekly call is really it. And I think you're going to learn really quickly what your property managers can and can't do. And like I said earlier on, it's kind of a dance where it's okay, this is what they're good at, this is what they're capable of, this is where I might need to step in and help a little bit, right? And the accountability, weekly calls, make sure that there's metrics. We've offered incentives to certain property managers before, and this is usually like one step before firing them. It's like, look, your leasing's pretty slow. I'm going to give your leasing agent $100 if they can get this unit filled before the end of the month. But that's something else that we've done with a little bit of success. But like I said, that's kind of like the last straw before firing. But anyway, hope that helps. Once again, sorry, I rambled a little too much, but hope that helped.
Yeah, absolutely. You also mentioned earlier you replaced some property management companies in the past, and talk about that process, because it's just not like a smooth transition typically. So maybe some lessons learned, for some of our listeners out there.
Yeah, first of all, I don't think it's ever a surprise to the property management company. I think most times it's mutual. Usually by the time we get there, there's frustration on both ends, and part of that is, a lot of it's just the expectations, like, hey, we've had 4 units sit vacant for 2.5 months now, after weekly calls of what's going on, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't we get these leased? And them not solving it. Usually it's, it's time, and it's time, and they know it's time. But the process, it's that there has to be a really good, solid handover to the new property management company, So, I usually spend a little bit of time kind of vetting a couple new property management companies before I part ways, before we tell the other company that, hey, we're quitting on you. Most agreements between owners and property management companies have like a cool down period, like, hey, you can cancel within 30 days. I found that most property management companies just want to, pull off the Band-Aid. They just want to get it done quickly. So typically, if I know I'm going to fire somebody, I'm going to come in, I'm going to find the new property management company, talk to them about what we want. And maybe we're talking to 2 or 3 different companies. But the important part is just to make sure there's good communication between the 2 companies. The other thing I would say is aim for middle of the month. You don't want to do end of the month right before collections come in, or early in the month while you're doing collections. Aim for the middle of the month, or at least after the monthly collections have all come in, before you do that handoff. so that you have time to get the new payment information out there. If there's a new portal people have to log into, you're getting that information out to the tenants. If you change property management companies on the 30th, you're going to be chasing down rents from the other property manager all month. So yeah, a lot of it is just the handoff, and you've just got to make sure that you're talking with both sides. If you can get on a 3-way call, even better. But make sure you're touching base with the new property management company, especially. And hey, did you get all the keys yet? Have you gotten copies of all the leases yet? Have you gotten? Did you get the security deposits transferred over and whatnot? And then of course, there's the final accounting with the old property management company. Eventually, they probably have some of your money in an escrow account or collections or whatnot. They're probably going to want to hold a little bit of that in reserve until all the bills come in, but you just got to make sure that you're aware of how that works, and you're not going to see, the last little bit of money from that management company for probably a month or two. But, overall, we've had fairly smooth turnovers. I wish there weren't as many of them, but we've had a lot of pretty smooth turnovers. No nightmares there.
Excellent advice. Well, Brian, I asked this question pretty much of all my guests. What is your asset management superpower?
Oh, geez. My superpower. Wow. I don't know if I have an asset management superpower. Well, I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps, and quite frankly, I was a commissioned officer. That's essentially what I did for 20 years in one way, shape, or form. I was managing people, I was managing budgets, I was managing training schedules. So I've been doing a very similar role for 20 years. And it's something that I know how to do. I'm not the best at it, but it's something that's definitely inside my skill set. I know there's a lot of things I need to get better at, but yeah, it's like I said, I had 20 years of preparation, working on military related stuff, training plans and personnel management and budgets and whatnot to get me where I'm at.
Nice. Well, I'm sure that translated perfectly into this.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't translate directly, but the skills do. We're not putting bombs on
Right.
targets anymore. So that would be fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brian, for coming on the show and sharing your insight on property management companies. A lot of great stuff. Talk about nailing leasing. Talked about no PM is perfect, which is definitely true. Could you tell the listeners where they can find out more about you?
Yeah, a couple websites. LinkedIn is probably the best place. I try to post on LinkedIn several times a week. If you want to hear what I'm saying, the podcast as well, Diary of an Apartment Investor. And for the listeners, Gary did recently do an episode with me, so you can pull that one up as well. And then, websites, I got 2 websites to push people to. If you're interested in passively investing with us, streamlinecapitalgroup.com. And, we also have an educational community, the Tribe of Titans. That's the tribeoftitans.info. So those are the many ways to learn more about me or get a hold of me.
Excellent. Well, this is Gary Lipsky signing off. I'll be back next week with another informative episode on the Real Estate Asset Management Podcast.
To all of our listeners, thanks for joining us. And if you like this episode, please head over to iTunes or Stitcher and like, subscribe, and review this podcast, as it will help us grow our audience and reach more people. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do at Break of Day Capital, head over to our website, breakofdaycapital.com, and sign up for our newsletter and/or fill out our investor application. We'll talk to you next week.